Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Okay, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, we got talk champion Jonathan Small in the studio, joining us once again for start off another week of conversation. Good morning there, Mr. Small. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Stan. It's good to be back here again. Look forward to it every week.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you feel the same.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. No place I'd rather be than here on in the mornings, especially when you're here, Jonathan. How was your weekend?
Well, weekend was nice, up and down. I mean, Saturday was just a little hectic. Felt like autumn or early spring. Then yesterday was picture perfect. You can't go wrong. Everybody's like they was out enjoying themselves.
Beautiful day. Beautiful
day. And I mean, I was just in and out. I was outside, inside. I went out to a few events, but I didn't stay that long. Just couldn't stay still. But the weather was just perfect, and you can't go wrong with a weekend like we had. I mean, just take away Saturday. I mean, that was just a rawish type of day. But although some parts of the country is burning up, you talk to people in the South, the Southwest, the deserts. They're just going through heat and humidity.
Mm-hmm.
So feel blessed, Dan.
I do feel blessed. I am blessed. Yeah. More than feeling blessed, you got to be blessed.
Be blessed.
Yeah, nothing like being blessed. Right. Feeling blessed is good, but being blessed is better. Yeah.
So you're a man that look at the glass always half full, not half empty, if that even is scientific.
I look at the glass, and if it's half, it's half.
Okay.
Yeah, it's half. It's neither full nor empty. It's half.
But I mean that mentality. I mean, not so much the glass itself, but just how you look at life. Okay.
Positive. Yeah, you get a positive view of life. Life is what you make. You find in every place you go what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for positivity,
that's what you'll find. You will always find it.
If you're looking for negativity, you'll find negativity.
That you'll find it everywhere.
There's no in between. You can't do both. You can't see both. I mean, is it?
You can see both, but a lot of times people aren't looking for something. They're not looking for the middle. They're not looking for mediocrity. Well, I should take that back. Some people are, but they're looking for something. People generally find what they look for.
Okay. We usually get in this type of conversation after
our
guests. We're kind of getting into it early now. You know me, I like to bring out the best in certain topics if I can. So we usually get into this after, I guess. But
we could get into this a little later on.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it is Monday, which means it's the beginning of the week, the beginning of the talk cycle. We have seven-day talk cycles here. So we start the Monday talk cycle all over again. And, of course, every Monday, Jonathan finds guests from all over the country and around the world to share with us here in our great audience. And I always consider these master classes because Jonathan always has a way of finding the best people to bring. So I'm sure today will be like all of the Mondays in the past. So I always say, get your notebooks out, pen, paper, because this is a great place. I'm telling you. Take notes. Take notes. If you're a copious note taker, take notes. Write this stuff down. That way you'll remember it. So we won't spend more time than that getting things set up here. Let's turn this over to Mr. Small and get underway. So you have the floor, Mr. Small.
Well, good morning to people out there. This morning on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show, we have an amazing musician, artist, and I guess this person has a real positive way, as we was just speaking, on trying to use her skills into a way to help people and make people feel better. The guest this morning, again, on Morning Talk Live with J. Stam McCauley Talk Show is composer.
Audio's gone.
Is a
no audio.
Is a composer, producer.
Oh, we can hear you. Can you hear us, Jeanne?
Audio.
We can hear you. She can't hear us.
She can't hear us? Okay.
I guess. Can you hear us now, Jeanne?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, we could hear you the whole time.
Oh.
Okay. But go on, Jonathan.
Okay, the guest this morning again is a composer, producer, artist, and stress sciences expert, no other than Jeanne Ricks. Good morning, Jeanne. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning to you. Happy Juneteenth, official holiday of the nation now. They've discovered us.
Yes, federal holiday. That's something to feel proud of.
I don't know if we should be scared now that they've discovered it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jeanne, could you let people know a little bit about yourself and background before we get into our topics of discussion?
Well, I'm a musician.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a musician as long as I was breathing, I think. And as you mentioned, also stress sciences expert. I think I've been stressed almost as long as I've been alive too. But I went to Berklee College of Music, got my degree in film scoring because my intent was to do a lot of film music. But I ended up almost straight away. My songwriting has always been my strength. I've always written. And George Benson recorded one of my songs called Love Remembers. And then Shaka Khan did a song of mine called Don't Ask. The Pointer Sisters did a couple of songs. And so songwriting kind of became my focus. Although I did get to do, some film scoring work with Francis Ford Coppola, a movie called Assassination Tango with Robert Duvall. I did some of the background music. And then one morning, Jonathan, I was sitting in front of the TV and I was looking at the Weather Channel. I said, wait a minute, they're playing smooth jazz. I got plenty of instrumentals. They should be playing my music. And it took me, I want to say a good 4 or 5 months before I found who was the person to even talk to about getting my music on there. But I got on there, and I was on there for about 9 years of doing smooth jazz for them until they stopped accepting outside music. They went with a service, I guess, at some point. So a lot of the smooth jazz you heard I did, and then they had a CD, their first ever CD of Weather Channel music, and I was on that with a bunch of wonderful people like Chick Corea and Boney James. A lot of other people, smooth jazz names were on there too. So it was a great opportunity. And I guess that leads me up to where I am now. Oh, why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because I was under stress. It was right at 2014 when there was another, we keep having these little market crashes. And this one really hit me hard. And I was sitting home and I was like, and I started doing research because I've always been into nutrition and health. And so I started researching stress and found out there were so many immediate physical reactions when you're under stress. And there are also some immediate things you can do to mitigate that, get rid of that, if you take the time to admit to yourself that you're under stress, which a lot of people have trouble doing. So there you have it.
Well, Jeanne, obviously, as a musician, you go into the music recording studios to make a song, to make a nice, talented song. But you kind of have an instinct, not also trying to just to make a nice song to sound good, but to also kind of help people, kind of give people something that they may find useful. Is that some of your intention, or you just go into the artist just trying to make a nice record and hopefully it sounds great and go for the dollar signs? I mean, I'm being upfront in the business.
No, it was a direct reaction to what I feel like right now on popular music, is a real a trend towards less positive songs. I wanted my music to, if not inspire, at least make you feel like somebody was coming along with you, like somebody felt what you were feeling, and was in your world and giving you uplift. There's enough songs about how awful the world is, and what I'm gonna do to you, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't want to do that kind of music. I wanted to do music that was gonna uplift, that was gonna give people a sense of the world is not 100% awful, you know. And again, to make them feel like, if like there's somebody that has gone through the experiences they've gone through. So even though I may talk about experiences that are kind of rough, I try to give inspiration within the song. So the hook will always be something like, but you got this. You know what I mean? The world just fell apart, but you got this.
Right. Well, you mentioned some famous artists that you have collaborated with, but let's start off with George Benson. George Benson, like a jazz musician, had, for some reason or just some instinct of his sounds, would make you feel very good, relaxed. Did you learn anything working with George Benson, or do you see George Benson as an artist that you can kind of get some inspiration from?
Yeah, first of all, he is a monster. When I tell you, there were licks that he was just throwing away in between takes in the studio that were just incredible. You're like, oh my God. Especially since I'm a guitarist. That's my main principal instrument is guitar. But I'll tell you a funny story about how that came about, because it wasn't your typical ordinary route. So I knew that my music would fit George Benson because I grew up listening to him, right? And so I wanted to get some of my songs to him. You'd think that's a simple thing. You can go through, I went through his publisher, his record label. I sent material to the studio that he usually recorded at, just in case. I literally canvassed everywhere I could think of to try to get in touch with George Benson. Nothing happened. I mean, zero, the radar, nothing. So I gave up, and I was in my apartment one day and the phone rings, and it was Bob James. I don't know if you know who Bob James is, but he is a renowned keyboard player. He has a group that he plays with now with Nate called Foreplay. They do a lot of stuff together, but in his own right, he had done like multiple albums and is an amazing keyboard player. So Bob James calls me. So I was already floored. I was already sailing. And he says, you know, I'm producing an album for George Benson. I was like, what? He said, and you know, I've only been doing this. He was at Warner Brothers doing A&R, but it was a relatively new position for him. And he said, you know, my predecessor left this box of material in my office, and I haven't been able to get the custodians to take it away. And so it's just been sitting here, and I've been frustrated. And so I finally decided to just at random reach into the box and see if there was anything worthwhile in this box of stuff. And he pulled out my material out of this random box that he was waiting to send to the garbage. You understand me? And he said, and I'm just wondering if this song Love Remembers is still available. I was like, yeah, it's still available.
Wow.
So, and it also so happened that I had planned a trip to New York, like within the next 2 weeks. I mean, just this just all came together. It was just the most amazing thing. So I told him, you know, listen, I'm going to be in New York. He said, well, if you're going to be here, I'd love for you to be part of the production team. So I got to actually be with it. I got to sing background vocals. I got to coach George through the melody of the song of playing, and I got to be there as they recorded the background tracks. Omar Hakim on drums. Oh my God, it was so cool. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, all because my material was in the garbage.
Yes, hook or crook accident, or however you want to classify it. So, Jeanne, you are labeled as a jazz musician, but how do you view your sound? I mean, is it something beyond just jazz that you are displaying in your music?
Yeah, I try to do, actually, it's more more toward the R&B side of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I grew up, you had the George Bensons who would cover popular songs. You had they would play right alongside regular R&B on the radio. When he did what was that song on Broadway?
Yeah, right.
They played that on regular radio.
Mm-hmm.
So I always, in my head, I'm not writing smooth jazz. I don't even try to associate myself with that particular term. But they label me anyway. But yeah, I think of it as instrumental R&B. You know,
R&B, right.
I grew up as singing in the choir, and so I love background vocals, and I love them layered. So you'll hear a lot of background vocals. I also grew up playing percussion, so there's a lot of rhythm in my music, and I love to have just the richness of ethnic influences. So other rhythms from other nations I love to include in my the islands and whatnot. I love to include that in my music as well. All part of the diaspora. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I looked on the bio that you sent me, and you have collaborated with a saxophonist, if I'm saying it correctly, Steve Coleman.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that he had mentioned that he studied the music sound in Africa, in West Africa. What was that like collaborating with Steve Coleman?
He's such an amazing, first of all, he's a thoughtful, wonderful human being.
Mm-hmm.
But as you mentioned, he's so thoughtful and so direct in his approach to music is so right on point. I mean, he just really focuses in. He's an amazing player. I also worked with Walter Beasley, who's another jazz saxophonist. He came in and did a couple of, we no longer have to be in the same room to work together. I happened to go to school with Beasley, and I asked him to be a guest soloist on my last CD, and he graciously agreed to do 2 songs with me. And we didn't actually meet up. I literally sent him the track long distance, and he sent me back the tracks as he completed them. Steve, however, we worked in the studio together, and again, it was a wonderful experience. He's so thoughtful, even in the way that the dynamics that he looks for are just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I mean, you're from Chicago, I believe, if what I seen correctly.
Chi-Town.
Chi-Town.
Yes.
Okay, so you come from a city of many different famous artists.
You've got Herbie Hancock, Quincy Jones. Of course, you've got Ramsey Lewis. You've got the Emotions, Lou Rawls for people who are into the blues.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago has been R. Kelly. You've got we produced some music.
Mavis Staples also.
Yes, the Staple Singers. How could I forget? Yes.
Ton. So you said you started off kind of early. Did you learn your music sound in Chicago basically, and then you just translated out to college? Is that how?
I was so fortunate that my uncle lived next door to a musician named Tom Washington. He's listed on albums as Tom 84. He was the arranger who did all that Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff, all that. Mm-hmm. That was all his arrangement stuff. And so amazingly, even when I was in high school, I would get to go over to his house and listen to the recordings as they're making them. And he was gracious enough. I mean, this man is a beast when it comes to, he just is able to hone in and knows immediately and is able to rewrite arrangements on the spot to fit the song. I mean, he's a beast. But anyway, he was gracious enough to, John, check this out. Even when I was in college, I would come back home and I would have my charts, because I really studied arranging, the orchestral arranging as well as big band arranging. And I would come back with my charts, my little, sound stuff, and he would listen, and he never made fun, even though he really could have. He really could have taken me to task. He listened seriously, and he would give me notes, you know. And I remember there was a point where I had wanted to put strings in a piece, and I told him, well, no, I can't. And he said, well, why didn't you do it? And I was like, well, I can't do that. I haven't had the course yet. I don't take strings until, it was like, 3 or 4, semesters in. And he was like, girl, you've been listening to strings all your life. You know what strings sound like. You know where they go up. You know where they go down. Just do the arrangement. Just write. And he was right. I mean, I had been listening to strings all my life. I knew how to write strings. And so I did. And I went back up to Boston and I put together an ensemble and played them, and it came out great. I was also asked to be part of an orchestral ensemble called Our Orchestra, and they did several of my pieces too. So it was wonderful to live next. We had a supportive community in Chicago. Musicians, we all practically knew each other. It was, you would get introduced on the fly to somebody and they would, like I said, graciously, like Keith Henderson, he's an MD and guitar player. He does the emotions stuff whenever they go out, if they go out. And he's just an incredible guitar player. He coached me. So many, Phil Upchurch's son, he's also called Phil Upchurch, that's why I delineated. But anyway, again, great coaching on how to play guitar well and how to do sessions and what to think about when you go to sessions, what to think about when they're booking you for sessions, all that kind of insider stuff of who the players were and what the attitude was, because they were all, I'm a female and I'm younger than them. So they all wanted to make sure I had the right attitude walking in. Don't take any mess when you go to these sessions. So it was great support growing up in Chicago as a musician.
Well, you mentioned you are an artist, you're a producer, you're a composer, you played a guitar, you do arrangements or as a arranger. So you kind of have really a jack of all trades in this industry. I mean, you don't find too many artists like yourself who can do pretty much just about everything. Was this a challenge, or was this something that come naturally to you, how you was able to learn different aspects of the music industry?
I grew up in a family where education was tantamount. Education was everything. Mm-hmm. And I also always had a curiosity. Oh, Jonathan, I always wanted to know more. I remember when I was in high school, I had just, I only had an acoustic guitar at that point. But I saw the guys with their electric guitars, like Ray Fuller, he had an electric guitar. I was like, wait a minute, I need an electric guitar. Mm-hmm. So that was when I got my first electric guitar. And Ray Fuller and I would sit in the practice rooms and just jam between classes. You could always find us just jamming, or I would jam in the hallway. There were a couple of people who the stairwells had a really nice natural reverb. So we would jam in the stairwells. I mean, I went to Kenwood Academy, which was a high school that was known for music, because we had an amazing teacher there, Lena McLean, and she ran that music department. That was her department. And because of that, it attracted a lot of great musicians to the school, like Stephen LaFleur. I mean, just amazing musicians. Actually, R. Kelly went there. So okay. That's how deep my high school was, okay?
Yeah. You went to the same high school that R. Kelly went to?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Or he went to the same school I did.
He went to the same school that you went to. Okay. To do that. That's saying something. Stan, do you have anything you want to ask or any comments you want to make to our guests?
No, I'm enjoying listening. It's fascinating. So,
Okay.
So I'm
listening.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of music people. So.
Right.
Yeah. So it's always fun listening to the creative, and it's a wonderful community. Yeah.
Okay. Jeanne, as a stress sciences expert, what exactly is that contain of?
Well, even as we're speaking, there are people out there who have daily ongoing stress. I even would suggest that this thing that we've as not just as a nation, but as a world gone through, this whole COVID-19 thing, has put us at a level where we are all under so much uncertainty, whether it's financial uncertainty, whether it's, do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? Do I send my kids? Are my kids coming home because there's so much, and food uncertainty, and now gas price uncertainty. Oh, the gas price. So there's so much uncertainty, so much constant uncertainty that causes a low level of constant stress. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm. Well, things can easily stress me out. I mean, particularly if you allow it to, if you could find another alternative or way to handle your stress or relieve your stress. But stress is just a part of life, I think. But what's your mechanism, again, towards helping people with stress?
Well, the thing is, Jonathan, most people, even like yourself, especially Black men, man, you don't admit that you're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
You power through everything, power through. And actually, we as a people typically just power through. And because of that, the effects of stress are never mitigated. In other words, they continue to cycle up. Here's the thing. Let's say you got a phone call. Let's say you got a phone call from somebody who you knew, as soon as you saw that number, you knew it was going to be trouble. By the way, it was the kind of person they were, or you knew there was something that was possibly going to happen. As soon as you saw that number come up on your phone, you knew crap was going to fly, right? Okay, so that phone call comes in. You see that number come up. Immediately, within seconds, understand me, your cortisol level goes up. Why is that so bad? What's wrong with cortisol? Cortisol comes out of your adrenal glands, which are just little walnut-sized little glands that sit on top of your kidneys. And those adrenal glands kick out this cortisol within seconds, because even though you looked at the phone and you saw it as a phone call, and you probably in your mind already knew you could handle it, or you knew that, like I said, you were kind of expecting it, your body got a different signal. Your body got that instantaneous thing that you did, which was, oh, crap, or oh, whatever that instantaneous thing was. In those seconds, your body released cortisol because it assumes that you need to run from danger. Now, because it's making that assumption, within seconds, right then, as soon as you had that reaction, it starts shutting down your digestive tract. Immediately, within seconds, it starts constricting your blood vessels because it thinks you're going to need more energy to run, and you're going to have to push that blood out. So it raises your blood pressure in seconds. In seconds, it actually takes your pupils, and when you're looking at that screen, you're able to see it more clearly. You don't notice the difference, but because it thinks you need to see your attacker more clearly, so it constricts the vessels in your eyes so that your vision is more clear. It also depresses your immune system in seconds because it figures, well, you're not going to need to, digest food or respond to an illness because you're about to run away from a predator. And it also shuts down your sex drive in those seconds because it figures you're not going to have time for having sex. You're about to run away from a predator. So all of these things happen in seconds. Now, let's say you talk to that person, in your mind it's resolved, and you get rid of that phone call. Well, you haven't done anything about all the resources that your body has collected, have you? Because you didn't fully acknowledge the fact that you were under stress in those moments. You didn't do anything to turn that cortisol back off. And it has to be turned off in order for it. It's not something that will, it'll gradually peter down. But if you don't turn it off, it stays in the on position to the point where if you get little stressors all day long, which most people do, they get a little stress here, a little, the cortisol level keeps going up. And so by the time they get home and go to bed, yeah, they may fall immediately to sleep because they are exhausted, but they won't have the kind of deep, restful sleep that they really need to get up in the morning and feel refreshed, revived. They don't get what's called REM sleep because the cortisol level has remained high because you didn't do anything to really reduce it. So what I teach people, or what I try to teach people, is that if you in the moment can't do something about that stress, try to get in the habit of during your day, at least 3 times during your day, just doing some deep breathing. And you don't have to announce to the world, I am now going to take care of my stress. No, you can be standing on the bus stop or in the elevator or just get out of your car. When you get to your destination, you don't have to jump out of the car and go immediately in. You can sit there for a second, take a few deep breaths, and it only takes a few, because here's what happens. When you take that deep breath, you relax the diaphragm, and now subliminally your mind goes, oh, wait a minute. He's relaxing something? What happened? Wait, then he must not be running away from danger. It makes that connection. So you take 2 or 3 deep breaths a couple of times during your day, whether you think you've been under stress or not, because chances are you have. So that's one of the tools that I try to give you. I know it sounds ridiculously simplistic. I had one woman on ABC TV ask me, well, isn't there something more her producer, right? She was like, isn't there something more cutting edge that you can offer the audience besides breathing? I'm like, it's free, it's easy, it works. I'm good with breathing.
Well, Jeanne, when you go into the studio to make a record or participate in a record, if you're having a bad day, if you're under stress or you got some personal problems, are you still able to go into the recording studio and give it your best? Or does the recording studio kind of help you get over whatever that you're going through?
Yeah, exactly. That's where you live. That's where you breathe. So we usually, almost all musicians have some sort of ritual to really, because even when you're going on stage, you need to pull it back down and focus in on that audience. Because I remember I used to have stage fright to a certain, and I write about this in the book too. I used to have stage fright. And it was at a certain point that I recognized, oh, wait a minute. This audience is here to enjoy themselves. They're not looking for, did I play a G flat when I should have played a G sharp? They're not looking for that kind of detail. They're there to have a good time. They just went to dinner or something. They've got enjoyment on their minds. As long as I'm enjoying myself, they will enjoy themselves. Even if I make a flub, they will enjoy it. If I forget the lyric, they will enjoy it. Oh my God, John. Okay, so there was this performance that I did in New Jersey. And, I do covers in my show too, because I always want to make sure that people feel comfortable. And if you just play them a bunch of your stuff, and maybe they're not as familiar with your songs as they are, as you would like them to be. So I always do covers, but I do them with a spin. I do them my way. But anyway, okay, so I had decided to do a Marvin Gaye tribute kind of thing. I just did 2 of his songs, What's Going On and Mercy, Mercy Me. And I figured out this nice segue between the 2, because both of those songs are really pretty long. So I figured out this little segue so I could combine one song with the other song, because they really are practically the same chords, Anyway, so and I figured out this nice little arrangement, right? And I was doing it with solo guitar. I was just doing guitar vocal. Okay, so I get on stage, and it was the first thing that I was doing, because again, you want to open with something that the audience is going to be familiar with and is going to key into. So that was the combination that I was opening with. Child, I got on that stage, and as well as I know these songs, for some reason, all the words went out of my head. I mean, gone. So I'm standing there, I'm playing the chords for all they're worth. I'm going back and forth, hoping that at some point, this little light bulb is going to go on in my head, and I will remember the words. And come on, the words are mother, mother. The words are so simple. I couldn't remember. They were gone. So I played that thing, and there's actually a video of it. It was at least almost a minute. It was almost a full minute of me just going back and forth with these chords. It's so embarrassing. But and finally, the light bulb did click on. But afterwards, you're talking to the audience. I mentioned it to this one guy who I didn't really know him that well, but I knew he'd been at some of my shows. I was like, yeah, that intro, that was really kind of rough. He was like, no, God, sister, you were putting us in the mood. You were making sure our minds were right before you started. I know what you were doing. Like, Well, it's gracious of you to take it that way. No, I just had a mind fart. So yes, there are ways that you can settle yourself down before you start in the studio. You kind of some people do a prayer. Some people just set their own mood, their own tone. You're there with the engineer, you're there with the other musicians, and you're talking usually over the song so that everybody's in the same place. And then before that record button is pushed, you all kind of have that, you're all in the same, you're locked in the same mind. You know what I mean? There's this amazing chemistry that happens, and it doesn't always happen, but there are times, Jonathan, when the studio just lifts, when you as players just come together. I mean, maybe the bass player has been working on something personally, you know, a lick or something that he adds into your arrangement that you weren't expecting. There's this moment of, ooh, what was that? I mean, there's all these colors and changes that happen when you're working with live musicians in the studio. That's just amazing. We don't get to do as much of that live stuff anymore as we used to. Now, mostly you send tracks to people, and, you know, they send back the stuff, you know, to you, and you just blend it, you mix it into the song. But when you can do the live stuff, that's why I mentioned when you're on stage too, there's just a chemistry that happens. There's just a vibe that can happen when you're playing with players that you can trust, that you can open up with, and you can really feel supported as you're playing. You can open up and you can reach other levels. It doesn't work as well when you're not playing with players that you can trust, that are really good. So the ensemble that you put together is critical to that process of being able to trust that you are supported as you're playing. And then you can open up and you can do other things because you're not listening behind you. When you're playing with players that aren't so good, you're so busy listening behind you that you're really just going through the motions of playing for the audience, unfortunately. Sorry, but it's true. You really need to be supported by musicians who you can trust to have the bed laid, you know, so you can do what you're doing.
Well, Jeanne, again, you had mentioned three major artists that you had worked with, George Benson, Chaka Khan, and Anita Pointer. And there's more, but those three instantly stand out. But they have all, I guess the three of them have a different type of style of music. So when you go and work with each of them, do you have to learn how to adapt to what they like to sing, to their type of style of music? Or do y'all just kind of work together and figure it out?
Yeah, well, they've selected you for your sound, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they already know, you know what I mean? And then their thing just comes in. I remember, so Chaka, bless her soul, she was an hour and a half late for the session. But she's Chaka, she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
While she was late, right? Pooji Bell was on drums. I can't remember who the keyboard was, but her background singers were singing her parts. Do you know what I mean? And they were kind of showing off a little bit, and they were incredible. Can I just say that? Mm-hmm. It was like, oh my God. But when Chaka finally sauntered in, she came in that studio. She didn't even put down her bag. She literally just walked over to the mic, took possession of the area. Mm-hmm. And while the band was playing, you know, because the band was already playing, and she just kind of took, and she stepped into that mic and just hummed. And it was like, whoa, there is an amazing difference. I mean, I'm telling you, the background singers were badass. They were amazing. Mm-hmm. But when she got on that mic, there's just a presence. There's just something about this woman's voice. I'm telling you, it was like night and day. Immediately there was it was Chaka, and immediately there was this, I can't describe it any better. It's same thing with George Benson. Mm-hmm. There are other people who own the exact same guitar style that he has. It's called an L5. It's a Gibson. It's a big, bold guitar. Wish I could afford one. But anyway, lots of musicians own that guitar. But when he plays it, and I'm telling you, it's just guitar and amp. no gizmos, no nothing, no special yada yada blah, just guitar and amplifier. And he commands a sound out of that thing that no one else can do. The same thing with Shaka. There's just something about her voice. When she sang my song, it was transformative. When it's just there's something there. And what I'm trying to get out is that there's something special and unique about those individuals that is the reason they are stars. In other words, they're not stars by by chance. They're stars because there really is something that comes out of them that is transformative. The song Love Remembers is the song of mine that George recorded. And it's actually about my grandmother. I woke up one morning and Jonathan, I don't know why, but my grandmother was on my mind. And I realized I'd lost the sound of her voice. I couldn't remember what she sounded like when she spoke. And to me, the voice is such a part of a person's personality. Do you know what I mean? It really is a part of the package. And I couldn't remember her voice. And she passed. It had been a good 10 years. And I called my mom and I said, I can't remember grandmother's voice. Can you remember her voice? And she said she couldn't either. Well, that broke my heart. I was messed up. I mean, I was literally messed up for like a week. I was walking around like, oh my God, trying to remember her voice. Well, at a certain point, I realized, well, okay, you're into all this science and metaphysics and quantum mechanics, and you're into all this stuff. You know that energy is just energy, and the voice is a vibration, it's energy. It continues, it's not lost. If there is a divine presence, if there is a God, there is all of this material that's just out there in the universe. And even though I may not be able to remember her voice, it still resonates somewhere. It's still there, and love remembers. And so that's what the song is about. Love Remembers is about that, is that you may forget, you may not have all the memories, you may not have all that, but somehow love remembers. And even for my new CD, I did a new CD called Reinvention. And I actually sang Love Remembers on my CD as well. I did my own version of Love Remembers. Because that song was so important for me.
Well, again, how people handle stress and what the type of music you try to produce and sing to help people feel good, handle life better, differently, is real important to you. Do you bring that out to the artists that you work with? Like, let's say Shaka Khan, Anita Pointer, George Benson. Well, George Benson already classifies his type of music as it just makes you feel better instantly. And all artists sound good, but something a little bit differently to try to definitely just go out and make a song to make you be relief and relax and just really no state of problems that you can function with when you're listening to that, listening to your type of music and your type of sound. So again, you learn a lot from other artists and they learn a lot from you. So do you get a tremendous satisfaction of knowing that type of collaboration works together?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because once they put their sound on, because usually they are using my original tracks, like Nick Coleone. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a guitarist. He just passed last year, unfortunately. He recorded a song of mine. And you hear his guitar as opposed to my original demo. And there's a different quality to it. So typically they are using my background tracks, my original arrangements, and they're bringing their sound on top of it. And it just changes it. The color, I can't really describe. There's just a different color. Anita Pointer sang a song of mine, another one that was really important to me, called Thorny Rose. And Thorny Rose, I typically hear music as I'm waking up. I'll hear new songs in my head, and I have a dictaphone that I keep by my bed, a little tiny recorder, and I record notes into it. And for this song, I heard this whole arrangement. I'm serious, Jonathan, from the rhythm section through the strings, I heard the whole thing, the background vocals. And so you're waking up, so you're not really clear. So you try to catch as many parts as you could. And I caught everything I could of this song except for the hook, which is the words "thorny rose." I knew the song was about life. I knew what the song was about, but I didn't have those last two words. Life is like a ba-da-da-da. I knew how many syllables it had, but I didn't know what it was. Again, I walked around in my apartment because what happens is you have to have your mind not thinking about it. So I was vacuuming, I was cleaning, I was doing anything I could do to get my mind off of the song so that maybe it would finally fall through. It took about 3 days for me to get those two words, thorny rose. But anyway, so I did my demo of it. But I wish I could play you the two songs, because when you hear Anita sing it, because she is the amazing vocalist she is, and also because she's a little more mature than I am, and her voice is more mature than mine is, she sings that song. And Jonathan, when she says life is like a thorny rose, you feel it. You immediately feel exactly what she's talking about. There's just she gets to that line and it's like, oh. When I sing it, it's like, oh, okay. But when she sings it, it's like, whoa, life is like a thorny rose, because life is beautiful, but it also has danger. That's what I was trying to get, was that it's fragile, it's beautiful, it's this thing, but it also has potential dangers. It can cut you. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why finding those two words with 3 syllables was so important, because I had to find something that encapsulated that idea of the beauty, the fragility, the wonderfulness of life, but that it has this potential to really hurt as well. And again, when she sings Thorny Rose, done. It's just powerful.
Yeah. Well, Stan, let me just bring you into this a little bit. Sade is one of your favorite artists. And do you feel good or you feel relaxed when you listen to her, or is just her type of sound of music that you like? I know she's always one of your favorite. You mentioned in the past. Just want to get your opinion.
I like, it's the whole package.
The whole package.
Right. So it's the band, it's her, it's the interaction between, it's the unit, if that makes any sense.
Right.
You know, I have the opportunity and the good privilege of having the best seat in the house when I video, because I video like a photographer, so it's very intimate, it's very close, and so you see the musicians communicating with one another in their music. Everything they do on stage emotes emotion. And so when she performs and when she sings, the band, the way they play, it's the whole thing. And so I like the style. So it's hard to, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
hard to single out one thing. You said it's the whole package.
It's the whole package. So Sade, Jamiroquai, I like to see their performances and the way they interact, and they deliver. It's what they do, but it's more than what they do. It's an expression of who they are. And so they, you know, when you go see top flight entertainers, they're more than just there to entertain you. They're sharing portions of themselves with you. So it's a very intimate experience. I don't know if I guess people do actually realize that, but they're listening to you express yourself. You know, it's like a foreign language that everyone can understand, music. And you're communicating with them. So if you listen to somebody as you know, I guess it's talking about, you know, the mature voice, that can say a word melodically and transmit a whole host of ideas and feelings. Something that would take many, many words to explain, to sing it a particular way. And so you're communicating with people. Mm-hmm. And some artists have a way of communicating. So, I'm thinking like Sade and then Jamiroquai. Like Jamiroquai, he sings music that is consciousness, and and I think Sade kind of does too. Love, and
But she has like a sophisticated consciousness, I think. If that makes any sense, her consciousness style of music is kind of sophisticated. In my opinion, I don't know if it's does. But Jeanne, do you work with any other artists beyond? Well, you do work with other artists, but are there any other future projects that you'll have upcoming that you're going to be working with?
Yes, the current CD was just meant to reintroduce me to the marketplace. We're actually working on a full CD to come out later, but right now we're just focused on getting this heard. The thing is, you write this music, and because the style is not exactly it's not hip hop, it's not, it's a matter of getting ears on your music. You write this music, you put your soul into this music, and it has to find the marketplace. And there's so much music out there now that it makes it difficult to get your audience on it. So we're building audience. That's what we're doing now. And I'm also working on a new book. So I did, this was the stress, the biology of beating stress. The title was originally supposed to be More, Stress Less. But the publisher changed the title. But now I want to do Be More Ageless. That's going to be my new book. And I want to talk about aging well, about things you can do nutritionally, exercise, sleep, the whole thing in a package, because our people are just not aging well. And I want to help that. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to put out material that'll help that. So I want to help people with their spirits through my music, and I want to help people with their health through my writing. So it's all writing.
Well, one thing about stress is, and I was told this a while ago, it can age you. I don't know if it's just by coincidence, but if you look at
no, it's not by coincidence.
Right. But I was going to say, about every president of the United States, it seems like after 4 years, they look a lot older. I don't know if it's just me or other people see it that way.
Yeah.
And also stress causes belly fat. That's one of the things that I wanted to, some people think that they can just, the belly fat is just a coincidence, just a part of getting older. And it's not. It is a one-to-one. When I see someone with belly fat, I know that they are under stress. Because remember I told you about all those resources that your body culls within seconds? Well, when you don't do anything with them, you don't run away from danger, right? That was what your body was thinking you were going to do, is run away from danger. Since you didn't run, you didn't expel that energy. And so now all those resources were cold because most of them were fat. It also gives you cravings. Stress gives you cravings for sugars and fats because it thinks you need energy to run from danger. So now it's brought together all these resources. It's brought extra fat from literally from your body. It's broken down some of your muscle tissue to make more, to raise your cholesterol, because it thinks you need that cholesterol to run. You need fat to run with. Anyway, so now you've finished that phone call, or you've gotten away from that stressor, and you didn't do any running. You didn't expend that energy. And so now your body stores it. And where does it store it? It stores it in the belly region because it thinks that's the quickest place that it can get it to if that danger comes back. So you got people with belly fat that are just under stress. And if they would take care of their stress, the belly fat would recede, but they don't take care of their stress, and the belly fat keeps going. You must exercise. You simply must. But people have been taught the wrong kind of exercise. What I teach is a 12 to 15-minute regimen that you do every other day, and your body will respond to specific kinds of exercise. But these facilities are in business to make money. And so these gyms and whatnot sell these memberships and they want to keep you in there. But unfortunately, the kind of exercise that they have people doing, it breaks down more muscle tissue than it builds. And so once again, now you have less muscle to burn fat. So you gain weight because you don't have the muscle that you need to burn the fat. It's just a vicious cycle, which is also covered in my book, The Biology of Beating Stress. So,
well, Jeanne, also I want to ask you and give special thanks out again to major producer Kevin Harewood. We talked about having you on a few months ago, and then finally we decided to put the work into the schedule and have you on particularly today. But what's your involvement with Kevin Harewood, if you don't mind me asking?
Again, happenstance. I reached out to him on LinkedIn. I had met him years ago, eons ago, and just kept the name. And we linked on LinkedIn. And you know, social media is everything now. You pick up people who you lost fragments from your life. Everything's online. So I got back in touch with him and sent him some of my music for one of his films because he's also an incredible film producer. And so we got in touch that way, and he said, well, you know, let me help you get, you know, some more music out. And so that is how we met, through social media.
Okay. Well, definitely I feel privileged to have known him, and you know, he's been on this program a couple on different times, and he's sent out tremendous referrals over the past few years, so definitely give him a special thanks. And you're based out of New York currently. That's where you work.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, you have many different beliefs and what you are trying to promote. I mean, it's not just music. Obviously, the impact of music is real important, as we kind of set that as one of our topics. But when you're talking about stress and health, and I know this really is not a fair question because it's kind of like hypothetical, but we talked off of the air about the differences that Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, and Prince, how their life all ended tragically. If there's other artists who are going through similar scenarios, can you kind of help them in some areas? Because it seemed like to me, Whitney needed some type of help, and Michael Jackson, I don't have all the facts in order to really say what he needed. Prince, I think that might have just been an accident, but painkilling, going through pain, substance abuse issues, these are some heavy topics that we have in our society, and sometimes the entertainment industry can cover up a lot of your issues that you're dealing with, but also at the same time it gives a magnifying glass to your issues too. So could you just break down how you think those lives could have ended up better, if there's any way in your opinion?
We as a people have been taught to self-medicate because we often were not didn't have access, either because of finances or just didn't have access to medical care, nor after things like the Tuskegee experiment, nor did we have reason to trust medical professionals. So we have been self-medicating, and we still do. A friend of mine's cousin just passed because he had weed that was laced with fentanyl. We have been self-medicating, and when you look at it was a big loss. Whitney, Michael, and Prince, they didn't have that ability to, or that access to, or it seems, I don't know, to have the people in their camp that they could trust, that could lead them to other things besides the self-medication methods that they were using. Let's put it that way. And that's also the fault of the people who were around them, who witnessed that, who knew what was going on and didn't do it. I can't imagine the guilt that they have and how that must have affected them, to know that they were right there in front of you, and either you didn't have the tools to help them or didn't feel comfortable, whatever it was. I feel the loss of them was so unnecessary. Michael was just about to go on tour. Whitney had just gotten herself back together and was, they, you know what I mean? They were just, and even Prince, from what I'm told, was about to start doing smaller shows, because he recognized that his hips were not, he wasn't going to be able to do that anymore. And he was actually going to start doing club dates, which would have been phenomenal. So yeah, they were all, it's interesting that they were all at points in their career where they were about to do something else and then got cut off. And again, it's self-medication. And I would say to anyone listening, if you are having an issue with opioids or alcohol or weed, whatever it is, take stock, because our time on this planet is very short. You have to take stock of what you are doing and consider whether perhaps you're doing too much in that direction. You have to be honest with yourself whether or not you've gone too far and you need to pull it back to the middle and readjust. It's hard though. I mean, this thing that we're in is hard. What we've been through is hard, and there's always tests of our will, of our character, and you have to be honest with yourself. And it's not easy to do because our time is so limited, and you're getting pulled here and pulled there, and you just need to bring it back to center, which is why I encourage people. And if you're listening, please take a few deep breaths a couple times during the day. Like I said, you can do it when you're in the elevator. You can do it when you're walking down the street. You can do it anywhere. Just take care of yourselves. And this is one simple little tool that you can use. Just 3 deep breaths a few times a day. And it's going to help level you off. It won't be a miracle. It won't get rid of your problem, but it'll help you deal with your problems better. The more oxygen you get to your brain, the better you're thinking, the better you're seeing things.
Right.
So.
Well, that's very positive words. And keep in mind, although I mentioned Michael Jackson, Prince, and Whitney, look at the history. Billie Holiday, Diana Ross portrayed her in Ladies Sing the Blues. Look at Bette Miller. She portrayed Janis Joplin's, Joplin is her name, in the Rose movie. Substance abuse issues. So it's painkilling. I know Michael Jackson and Prince might be more of a painkiller issue, and that's beyond just entertainers too. That's not, I just labeled them because we was talking about them, but we have a history, unfortunately, in our country, and sometimes entertainers, I don't know if it gives them more access to things. Well, yeah, it has to give them more access to certain things. And not to get too politically about the doctor role in Michael Jackson's case, but when you're an entertainer, you are put on a high pedestal. And I guess a lot of things are thrown at you, and a lot of people will do things for you, maybe for the wrong reasons. So you really have to stay grounded as in life in general, but particularly if you are a famous star or you networking and working with famous stars. So what you're doing is really important and really helpful and really positive, all rolled into one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If we're just about, I guess, out of time, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else that you would like to address. Like I say, you mentioned some of your future projects that you're working with or working towards, but is there anything else that you would like to?
I'd really like to encourage people to pick up the CD, Reinvention, Jeanne Ricks, and if you need to get stress relief, The Biology of Beating Stress. Both of those, I'd encourage people to.
And you take tremendous pride and joy in doing both as a stress scientist expert and also as a composer, producer, artist. So is it one that you like more than the other, or is it just kind of different areas of your career?
Oh, music is my passion, without a doubt.
Okay.
I am only still here on this planet to do music. Period. That's not even a question.
Okay, that's your true gift and your true purpose. Well, again, I mean, it was a pleasure having you on. I mean, we can go on if you want to, but I mean, we've pretty much covered a lot of ground. So I really appreciate, you being able to be on this particular morning.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you again to Kevin Harewood, and also to Jay Stanley.
Yes.
Stan.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt about it. It was a pleasure having you, learning some things about you, and keep up the good work with what I'm doing.
Thank you. I will. I have to.
It's your calling, yes.
Yeah. No choice. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a delight at meeting you, and continued success, and look forward to hearing your next project.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Take care.
All right. Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, she was playing maybe a month or so ago, and just the scheduling didn't work out. And then, Kevin and I worked a little bit together recently, and I told him, okay, let's work on a date. And really just did a little research on her, and she's very impressive in different areas. I didn't realize she worked with many high-profile entertainers until I looked into her bio. And she pretty much really, as a composer and a writer, for them to come after you and say, could you write your material, you got to be on top of your game.
Yeah, absolutely.
People underestimate sometimes the songwriting ability of an artist. But again, she has a tremendous conscience towards what she is doing, in her music, and then her other areas of stress sciences as an expert. So, sometimes, you look for people, you don't know who you're going to run across, and, you find somebody and they bring a lot to the table, as she did this morning. And, her particular type of work that she does and everything.
Well, great interview. And a lot of light shed on the industry, but also on the absolute need for folk to manage their headspace.
Yeah.
Because the stress that people are under, it's like nonstop.
Right.
And they're being aged out, and their stress will kill you.
Yeah. It's a hidden killer.
And it is a hidden killer.
Right.
It is the hidden killer for sure. Stick and stay, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It's Morning Talk. Take a short break, and then we will return. Morning Talk. Morning Talk, we're back. Jonathan Small and myself. We're here every Monday with a new interview with someone from around the country, bringing us great information to help you have a better day. So, welcome aboard. Welcome. By the way, if you ever want to get on board and give us a call, we encourage you to do so. I should do this more often than I do. Send me your phone number to morningtalk@accesstv.org. I'll call you and put your number in the phone. That way, when you call, it'll come up and it'll say, Morning Talk caller. And you can call in anytime, and we'll put you right on the air. That's our screening process. Social media presents very, very interesting challenges with live calling, and so our work around those challenges is to have you get pre-screened. It's sort of like flying. The TSA pre-screening. Yeah.
Yeah, Stan. I mean, obviously over the weekend, man, very light, nice events. People enjoying themselves, and like you mentioned earlier, if you look for good things, you'll find it. Clearly, you knew there was a lot of celebration events going on. Juneteenth event, nationally, federal holiday, and you got to feel good about having camaraderie. Even though I wasn't really spending a lot of time, just I was interacting, passing by, and it's nice to see good things happen and people doing the right thing. Unfortunately, even when you're not looking for negativity, it still exists, and you could do one or two things, Stan. You could block it out and ignore it, or you could adapt and interact in it, or find out about it and let it get into you. And I got to be honest, it's kind of hard for me personally, because of consciousness. When you hear young people, two teenagers going into a home invasion, and I guess anybody, because you guys mentioned earlier, we get caught up in mass killings and we forget about the everyday type of killings. But does it kind of make you wonder when particularly teenagers are getting caught up in traps like this, Stan, how you could get your life, I guess, at that early age, caught up into things that's going to be destructive? I just say, when I was 16, I had problems too, Stan. Don't get me wrong.
Was you doing home invasions?
I wasn't doing the home invasion, and I may get into this in depth, but probably not today. I made a major mistake towards education at 16 years old. I didn't drop out of high school, but I had a chance to go to college, and I kind of blew it. But I'll get into that at a later date. But that, to me, that was a major mistake. But breaking into somebody's home, whether you have a gun on the streets, these are life and death. What I did wrong probably was an educational, learning, career mistake. But when you get caught up into guns, and we don't know all the facts, so you don't like to get into hypothetical, but the mindset, Stan, of thinking you can go into somebody's home and take revenge or whatever the case may be, at that young of age, got to be saying we got some serious problems with some of our young people.
Well, we do have serious problems, and we have serious problems with some of our young people, as you suggest. But these problems are. Young people do silly things, and sometimes they get jammed up with their silliness. They think sometimes a young person thinks it's cool to jump off a roof into a kiddie pool, winds up tripping on the way down and hit his head and break his neck. They're
right.
Jumping off of rooftops onto ledges, onto another ledge on their way down, and kids do some silly thing. Adults do silly things.
Right.
So the whole world is not reflective of one or two people's silly or unthought out actions. But you can make the whole world think that that's how everyone acts if that's what you focus on.
Well, I think it just drew a lot of attention. I mean, locally, it's not the only incident. Like I say, many positive, good things was happening throughout the week.
A lot of positive. You don't hear, they don't focus on positive stuff. It seems there's a lot of focus on negativity. And now, the news is generally the news of the day as it relates to what went wrong. There is no breaking news about what's going right.
Well, I mean, the Juneteenth drew a lot of attention over the weekend. I mean, I was looking on the
new
news.
federal holiday, so
Right.
yeah.
But probably you're talking about maybe the everyday things.
Right.
Right.
You
know, that doesn't draw attention. A lot of
There's at the end of the day, the breaking news is something happened.
Right.
Plane crash, ship sank, earthquake, war broke out, mass murder, disease, anything negative, famine. Volcanic eruption, everything that is devastating on a grander scale than the last thing is what is breaking. But there's no breaking news on good. 2 students just received their 100th A. Talk about straight A students. Billy got another A. It's his 120th A in 3 years. And so we were going to talk to Billy about his success and what his keys to success are. You don't hear stories like that. They happen. But nobody, it's not that nobody wants to hear them. It's that the wizards of smart don't think there's a big enough audience that they could be tapped into and make money off of telling you that. So they don't.
Well, I mean, I think the incidents of 2 teenagers, being killed has to be broadcast. You just can't say that didn't happen and
the 2 teenagers
in a home invasion I'm talking about
were shot breaking into somebody's house.
Right. I understand. They were doing wrong.
They were breaking into somebody's house. I'm not insensitive to their age, but if they was 35, it would be less of an issue.
Right.
I just recently found out on Saturday that they were young people.
Okay.
When the story first broke, no one knew what the age was. But when they found out what the age was, then people started thinking, "Oh my God! Well, they were kids. Did they have to get shot? Did they have to cut? Did they have to kill them?" That's where the mind starts to go. First of all, you don't have no business breaking into somebody's house.
Right.
You don't have any business breaking into somebody's house. And so these things can be avoided.
Yes.
You can avoid getting shot to death in someone else's house.
Right. Well, the unfortunate part about beyond that, it wasn't like it was an accident. If you look into, and you probably didn't go into the details and everything, the investigation is still ongoing. Some type of revenge over some ex-girlfriend. It was a reason why. They wasn't breaking in the house just to be looking to steal something. They were looking to.
You don't know that.
Well, that's I'm going by what was reported.
No. I don't mean that you don't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you break into someone's house, the person whose house you're breaking into has no idea why you're there, who you are, and if you're going to break into people's houses, you need to give this some due consideration. Unfortunately, young people and older people do things without thinking, and there are devastating consequences to these actions. And I think we need to place a little bit more blame as a society on the actual perpetrators of wrong.
Right.
We have a really interesting way of shifting outcomes to the people who are not the authors of the event.
Yes.
You're speeding down the street, lose control, run into a pole, and suddenly the city has a problem because there was no calming mechanism on the road.
Right.
So now it's the city. No, it's not the city's fault. It's your fault for speeding. And we need to go back to personal responsibility of individuals who do wrong. Right. Personal responsibility isn't some sort of elitist conservative, right wing, thought mongering, because you want to hold people personally responsible for the things they do.
Right.
But that's how it'll be played off when you talk like that. People are responsible for the stuff they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're responsible for the stuff they do. Anyone that wants to challenge me, I'll come over, throw milk around your house, open up your snack bags and sprinkle them around the house and set your house on fire. And it'll be not my fault. It's your fault for owning a house with snacks in it.
Right. Well, and I think you and Luis, y'all debate this time to time about whose fault it is for certain conditions that exist in our society. And not saying Luis is looking for a scapegoat to talk about other factors why people are doing destructive things. But again, it's personal responsibility. And again, young people may be on the immature side still developing, and things will happen. I mean, you might, as a young person, take a joyride. It's still, a bad thing.
This happened in East Hartford.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how many young people are in East Hartford. There's probably a couple, maybe 20, 30,000 young people.
Right.
And so I would think that this is not a problem with young people. It was a problem with these two individuals.
I understand that.
Right. So if two individuals that were young decided to do this and the other 20,000 decided not to, I don't think that's a societal problem. And I grow thin in patience and not going to be idly silent when I hear the idea or the notion that the society is the problem, when most in the society aren't doing these things. There are a handful doing it. It's not society's fault. It is the fault of those individuals who choose to do what they do.
But we have societal issues and problems.
No one's denying that.
Okay. And whether who's at fault, for the problems in society, it still exists.
Right. Well, the fault finding is different from the fault from there being a problem. The problem is a problem is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's solve the problem more than worry about whose fault the problem was.
Well, do you give legislation some credit or effort for what they're trying to deal with gun legislation, gun reform? I mean, even though it may not be what you think is going to happen.
I think that's reactionary. It's still the perpetrators responsible for the crime, not the lack of legislation, because there's plenty of anti-gun legislation already there and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
There's legislation against breaking into banks. And a guy just robbed the bank the other day. No weapons. Blue T-shirt. He had a blue long polo shirt type thing on. His face is he knows now. This is an older guy, 51-year-old white male,
right?
And I guess he was 51ish, as I recall the news thing. And he didn't have any guns, but he stole money, and now they're looking for him. And
Well, I don't think this is an easy problem to resolve, because if it was
robbing banks is robbing banks against the law?
Well, not robbing banks, but let's say gun violence with mass killings and everyday gun violence. I don't think it's easy to resolve, because if it was, it would be resolved already.
It's not going to be easy to resolve because it's not the lack of legislation or the presence of legislation that's causing these people to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
The folk that are doing these things could care less what the legislation is. Legislation are for those who are willing to abide by the law.
Right.
Those are not the people you have a problem with.
Mm-hmm. Well, these are hardened criminals. I mean, if you're going into school,
right? You think they sitting around caring about it's against the law to shoot people? The guy just cut. Did you see the news? Guy cut the catalytic converter off the dude's neighbor's car. He went out to confront the people. What are you doing? And the guy cut his face open with the saw.
Yeah. Ooh. So that's horrific. Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't mind taking someone's life to steal a catalytic converter.
Right.
Stealing catalytic converters is wrong.
Right.
It's against the law. It's wrong. We don't need more legislation. He needs to be held accountable.
Right. Well, that's your judicial system. When you're talking about holding people accountable under the law, then you got to get into your judicial system. You know, are people getting enough time? Some people would say giving hard time is not always going to be the only end.
I think that I am one of those people who tends to be a little bit tough on crime.
Right.
Unapologetic. Mm-hmm. Folk that don't like that don't need to listen to me.
Right.
Or, you know, you see me coming down the street, step off and go about your way. Be mad at me. Cancel me out your mind. You know, that's just ridiculous. All of this spinelessness that people have, not standing up to some of these notions, they're just plain foolishness.
Well,
it's just foolishness. The guy who's cutting catalytic converters, you know what I mean? Do? Send him on vacation to Singapore.
Yeah.
I bet you he won't cut no more catalytic converters. Send him on vacation to Iraq or Iran.
So we got to check.
They don't have people cutting stuff like that out.
Yeah.
You know, out of cars. Mm-hmm. Throwing gum on the ground.
Right.
Because they won't. The society doesn't tolerate it. Not the judicial system. The society doesn't tolerate it. See, so we want to blame the fact that the court is no. Not the court's fault. It's not the court's fault. That's society's fault. We have decided as a society to let people who do wrong get away with it. Period. And we want to punish the victim of the wrongdoer.
But when you say we allow it, you saying the citizens should take the law into their own hand? Don't let the judicial system and the court systems do their job? Or
the citizens have to demand accountability and recompense for wrongdoing. Mm-hmm. When that day comes, things will change drastically.
So let's just say if a 16-year-old rapes a woman, he shouldn't get away. Well, you say the society has to, deal with it too, but he gets arrested. He shouldn't be charged as a juvenile and only get 2 years and then he's out on the street. Some people look at that as a big problem too.
He's 16. You think he knows what he's doing?
He knows what he's doing if he's raping a woman.
I would say so.
He knows it's wrong.
I would say that is very wrong. Right. It's very, very difficult to sexually assault a human being.
Right.
That's not something people say, oh. It's not like you trip down the street, right. Walking down the street, just accidentally sexually assaulted another human being. Takes force.
Right.
As a crime. He should be treated like the criminal that he is.
But an adult, though, that's the key, not as a juvenile. Because that's what we're getting into the problem.
He's making adult decisions. Mm-hmm. The age is, but we have. I'm gonna sound real cold these days. Age is not the issue here.
Right.
Age is the issue when you want to let him get away with what he just did.
That's what I mean.
So now we want to let him get away with it. We're looking for a way for him to get out of it. If he is guilty of the crime, then he should do the time.
Right. So that means he should be sentenced as an adult, though. That's what the court system has to make this decision now.
That's not the court system. That's society has to change the laws.
Okay. Well, I was hearing in the past stealing cars, how juveniles were just doing this some juveniles, because like you say, most juveniles
are not stealing cars.
But the ones that are stealing cars, they were getting away with it because of their age. So
you deal with the fact that there has to be a consequence.
Right. But I think again, man, looking at you, how you, I don't know what every parent is doing, but how you handled your son in one area of an employment issue, you have to believe if parents are involved, maybe they're not. So if you have some teenagers, because this is where your problems start at, as they lead to an adult stage of your life. You don't all of a sudden wake up at 25 and say, I'm going to be a hardened criminal. It's a process that leads to you being 25 and a hardened criminal.
Right. Some people start their criminal life at 25.
You can.
Then they get to be 45 and they're hardened
criminal. Okay.
Their criminal life is a decision. You make a decision to be a criminal.
Okay. But your decision can go into other areas, like you say, employment, schooling. I admit I didn't take advantage of an opportunity as a teenager in schooling. Could have went and got a guaranteed scholarship paid for. It's a real mistake that I made, but it's done. And you pay for your decisions that you make or decisions that you don't make.
Unfortunately, you reap what you sow. The consequences of your actions. How old were you when you made that decision?
I was 16 years old of age. It was set up that I could have had a guaranteed paid scholarship if I would have did a couple steps that I chose not to do. I got influenced by a couple people. One was a truck driver telling me here's a lot of ways that you can make money right then and there. And I had another friend who was an electrician. That was a little bit different because you do have to finish your...
These were older friends.
The electrician
had to be
was
at least 18.
Yeah. They were older. Yes.
Yeah.
A few years older.
Right. So 16 years old, full ride at a college that you could go to. I would have used a little bit more influence and made you at least go. And then if you decide you want to leave, then that decision would be yours. But at 16,
Yeah. Right. Well, it was a common trend of a lot of 16-year-olds either finishing school, going to college, going to the military, going into the workforce. Some dropping out too. So a truck driver's telling me he's making...
Truck driving's good work.
Good work.
You make a lot of money driving a truck. Right now, there's a shortage of truck drivers.
Right. But this was a different era. But it was still work at that era, but it wasn't the shortage like it is now.
No, but it was still good work.
It was still good work.
Truck driving is really you own your own business.
Well,
you drive a truck, or you could drive for a company.
For a company.
Fleet truck driver. But I mean, it's honest work and it's good work. If it weren't for truck drivers, we wouldn't have anything.
Right.
It's not like a truck driver's beneath people.
Well, the thing with this truck driver, I mean, he was a good truck driver, but he was doing other things too. He dropped out of high school, so my family thought this might not be the best influence for you. He's dropped, but he was a helper at first. He didn't start off as a truck driver. You got to be a certain age, but he was driving trucks. He knew how to drive trucks.
All right. Well, he's one individual. He's a reflection of his own actions, attitudes, and ways. Right. He's not reflective of the whole truck driving industry, just himself.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I mean, we are influenced by many things.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, we have to make the decisions that affect our lives. And then we have to deal with the consequences of those decisions. This is why it is very, very important to surround yourself with people who can give you solid, good advice.
But see, again, you don't want... Sometime, again, that's like it was personal responsibility that I made a decision. You don't want to use other factors of maybe parents could have got on you a little stricter. Maybe you could have got with your guidance counselor. They could have got involved with it a little bit more stricter. You don't want to use a scapegoat because you say personal responsibility. A person knows what they're doing. Maybe a 16-year-old doesn't understand the full grasp of education the way he could know.
There are many who would suggest that a 16-year-old does not. But we let children a lot younger than that determine whether or not they should go through a sex change.
Right.
So you can't have all these different messages.
Right.
Now, if at a young age, like kindergarten, third grade, you can decide what your gender is, even though it's not the gender you were born into, then most certainly, if you're 16, you should be able to make some other decisions. So you can't have it both ways.
But that wasn't the case in my era. These sex changes laws and all of these things are coming along lately. That wasn't the case back in the 80s, though. I don't recall it.
No, they weren't the case back in the 80s, but now it is.
Now it is. So
right,
maybe a 16-year-old's different today. They maybe younger kids, like you just mentioned, can make decisions.
They
now.
Can't make decisions.
They can't.
That's my whole point. I'm being facetious. They can't make those decisions, but because today, right now, we say 16-year-olds aren't old enough. In fact, we're up to 25-year-olds before you can actually make these sound decisions, which is one of the rationale and reasons for why folk don't want to hold 16-year-olds accountable for murder. Because they're still in their developmental. So, you have all these people with all these mixed messages, and then people wonder why the society is where it is. All right. It probably wasn't the best decision that you made at 16, but you cannot go back in time and undo it. So.
But do you think because the law in Connecticut, you can drop out of high school at 16. Do you think that's a law that we need to change, or laws don't really make a difference?
Laws allow you to be punished for certain behavior. They sanction behavior. The community, the society at large, has people that they go and put into office that go and they represent you, and they pass these bills and these laws that reflect the general will of the society. So if the society believes that 16-year-olds should be able to drop out of school because they've had all of the information and all of the knowledge that they need to make these grand decisions, then so be it. So what we need to do then, if that is the law, is to make sure that young people get the information they need to make sound decisions at 16.
Right.
If that's the law, then that's the law. So, changing the law is a relative issue. It's not the issue, because laws in and of themselves don't cause people to act a certain way. Laws just mean you can sanction people for when they don't. You've set a benchmark, and now we have something whereby we can evaluate whether or not somebody is doing something. Oh, you're not doing this? Guess what? We can sanction you with a fine, a penalty, or some sort of punishment, because the law says, or the law says that we have the capacity to take something from you, taxes, whatever the case is, because we have made that benchmark. So if we're going to give people decision-making power, they need information. It's the information that people lack that cause them to make bad decisions. And I say that based upon down the road, the individuals who made the decisions are the ones saying that they were bad. I'm not making the determination. I'm only going by what the people said. I wish someone would have said such and such to me when I was X age, because I would have done it differently. That means they didn't have the information that they needed. Because had they had the information, had someone laid out the real trajectory of the decisions they're about to make, they might have made a different decision. And that's the crime. The crime isn't the presence of a law or the lack of a law. The problem is that people are not being given the information to make good decisions. They're no longer being equipped to make critical choices. Critical thinking skills are frowned upon. It would seem that there are many in positions of great power. They don't want you to think critically. They want you to do what you're told. They want you to believe what you're told. Don't question things. If you question things, you can wind up being on the outside looking in. So it becomes very convenient for people to just be told what to do and what to think. And that's a very dangerous place. So I always tell people, question everything.
But the reality is, when you drop out of high school, what are you losing? What is the deficiencies? What is the ramifications when you drop out of high school?
There are big ramifications. Okay. Huge.
So it's a bad decision.
Absolutely, it's a bad decision.
Because some people, the young people, think, well, they're getting wayward. They don't have to go up. They don't have to get up every morning now and go to school, listen to some curriculum that they're not interested in.
Right. That sounds like the mind of a child.
Right.
Who thinks from 1 minute, they're not even thinking 5 minutes from now. They're thinking their thinking is relative to now and the past.
The past, right.
Something they have absolutely no control over. If you don't have control over the present, you absolutely have no control over the past. All you can do is reminisce, get romantic about it, hope for, be mad at, but you have no control over the past. The now you're navigating, but the future you have control over to a degree, and to the degree that you can make decisions now that affect your future. If you drop out of school, you will be classified as a high school dropout. Mm-hmm. Now, when you go to apply for a job, even if it's putting gum on the shelf at the store, mm-hmm. and they see that you're a high school dropout, and the next person finished high school, went on to college, can't find any work, but is applying to put gum on the shelf, they might give the guy with all the extra stuff the job to put the gum on the shelf. Mm-hmm. You put yourself at a grave disadvantage by doing that, which may not be relevant and present now because you want to stay home, eat Hot Pockets, and watch cartoons and not listen to the boring teacher.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I've heard those reasons.
2 years from now, mm-hmm. when your parents get sick of you eating the Hot Pockets at home and kick you out the house, you got to get a job.
Right.
And you're going to be ill prepared. That will not be society's fault.
Right.
Though, 2 years from that event, the society will say, oh, well, we have underserved you. Mm-hmm. We have failed you.
Right.
But they don't own the failure by giving you what you need to succeed.
Well, dropping out of high school is a bigger decision than quitting a job. Let's say you're in anybody's age, but let's just say it's a job you don't really like. You don't like dealing with it. You're not getting paid that much money, and you'll just roll the dice. I'll quit this job and I'll go look for something better. That's a lot. Dropping out of high school is a bigger ramifications than quitting a job in most cases. Because people usually don't quit good jobs that's paying good, that they like to do. They usually quit jobs that they don't like to do.
Don't like the boss.
Or don't like the boss.
Right.
So dropping out of high school, well, I don't like the curriculum. I don't like the teachers telling me this, telling me that. I got other things I want to do during the day. That's not good thinking. Mm-hmm. But you don't just drop out of high school if you think everything is going to your satisfaction. Dr. Osterguy would always say
most people don't drop out of high school. First of all,
well, most people don't, but the numbers could be higher in our urban school districts.
Right. I mean, there's reasons that people drop out of high school, Jonathan. But mm-hmm. I mean, but the fact of the matter is, most people don't drop out of high school.
Well,
so we're talking about the ones that do. There's a myriad of reasons why people drop out of high school. Well, I mean, we could go down the avenue and explore each one of them. And I don't mean Albany Avenue. We can go down the road and discuss each reason why a person says they dropped out of school. At the end of the day, what does that solve?
The Dr. Osterguy, the late Dr. Osterguy, would always say it's not the dropout issue if they're trying to drop into something that they feel is more relevant towards their life. So you have to get out of something to get to what you think is more relevancy. That's an ignorant way because they don't understand the whole process of life. But at that time where they're at, they think if they get out of school, now they can drop into something else that they think is more relevant.
Right, but the fact of the matter is that their thinking is in error, isn't it?
Yes.
So what they think, while relevant, means nothing. Because they don't know what to think or what they are thinking. Mm-hmm. No, you're not going to drop out of school and just drop into, so you don't even know what you want to drop into.
Right.
So before you jump off this bridge to something in the fog, it might be interesting to know what you're jumping into. Because you could jump to your death.
Right.
So just a little bit of critical thinking would give the average human being the capacity to say, well, you know what? Before I do this, I could get hurt.
Yes.
Why don't you want to climb the tree, Billy? Because I might fall, so I mean, it's not like this is some sort of foreign thing that we have to exercise. Mm-hmm. Survival and self-interest kick in at some point. Mm-hmm. So why would you think that quitting high school is going to be better for you? So if someone would have that down-to-earth, heart-to-heart conversation with a young person, mm-hmm. they might change their mind.
Right.
But if they're surrounded by enablers, yeah, man, the school ain't nothing. They ain't never do nothing for us anyway. They didn't even want to be here. They only here because they're getting paid. I mean, you can get into all of that headspace, and the person does themselves a grave disservice by leaving. Now, us having that conversation is not helpful to the young person, unless, of course, they're listening.
Right. Well, I think we talked last week about millionaires, and you said there's more opportunities today to become a millionaire. So dropping out of high school, maybe if somebody came along in a different era and you saw a high school grad 1972 washing cars, you might say, well, if I'm going to graduate high school just to end up washing cars, then I don't need to graduate high school.
That's not a logical line of thought. That's not a logical line of thought. There's nothing that says or predetermines that you're going to be washing cars after you get out of high school. Why would anyone think that?
I'm saying you think that because if you saw someone that graduated high school and he's telling you this is the job that I ended up doing.
That's the job he ended up doing. There's no. Why would I think because out of my class of 500, Billy, out of the class ahead of me that had 500 graduates in my particular school, Billy is washing cars. So that's all I'll be able to do.
Right.
I don't think that's not a logical way to think. And if someone thinks that way, I would challenge that thought.
That's the key. Sometimes you have to be challenged. And I don't know how everybody's being challenged. Maybe some people are being allowed to think one way, and that's the only way that they're looking at.
And that's what I agree with you on that 100%. I think I just said that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have someone to challenge their notions. And so they make a decision that affects them for the rest of their life.
Right. And there's other decisions, but we're just talking about dropping out of high school. There's other decisions.
And dropping out of high school is not a good idea. It's not a good idea.
Right. And it has nothing to do with the law that you're 16. I mean, you think it's just a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. Period. It's a bad idea.
But maybe changing the law would be a start. Maybe that's something.
Now, we could do a whole lot. It's easier than changing the law. Have that person talk to somebody before they make the decision. If you find out someone's going to drop out of high school, do the adult thing and talk to them.
Yeah. Maybe they should have to talk, like you say, to someone, their guidance counselor.
The guidance counselor can talk to them. Their teachers can talk to them. Their parents, grandparents, the preachers, the imams, the rabbis, the bus driver. And I don't know. If we were more focused as a society on the better well-being of kids and acted like it, not just talk about it, then there would be a better, kids would make better decisions.
So that's saying in Connecticut today, you can drop out of high school at 16. You don't have to speak to your guidance counselor. You don't have to speak to your teacher.
I don't know that.
You could just make a straight decision. But that's something that I think would be nice to look into before we make this statement that the Connecticut school systems, the Board of Education is just allowing kids to drop out of high school without being discussed.
I would say that the Board of Education and everyone else would push back on that. The fact of the matter is there's plenty of counselors that give kids all the reason they need to leave school.
Oh, okay.
Horror story after horror story about how, you can talk to our very own Dr. Bowen, what she was told at school.
Oh, okay. So that's the Board of Education definitely contradicts what we're saying that they should talk to.
Anyone who's charged with doing a job, when you start pointing out errors or failures in their ability to deliver, will have a rationale and an excuse for why. So we're not talking about, this is not an indictment on the school. I put grandmas, uncles, aunties, all in there. I didn't just point to the school.
Right.
So the guidance counselor, but there's not enough, guidance counselors can't be everywhere at all times. There's just not, there aren't 500 guidance counselors in every school. And so there's going to be some kids who drop through the cracks at the guidance level.
Oh, yes.
But they're not going to drop through the cracks at every level. Someone in their orbit needs to get a hold of them and shake some sense into them and let them know that dropping out of school is not an option.
Right.
That's what I'm suggesting.
And that's the big issue right there, that, everybody that could play a role has to realize that this decision, and even for myself, I mean, the college thing was a little bit different than, let's say, dropping out of high school. But again, a role that someone could have came along and said, look, I don't think you're making a good, wise decision. Here's somebody, a relative, giving you a full 4-year scholarship, and all you got to do is do a few steps, and you're deciding, no, you don't want to do this because you think driving trucks is more money right then and now, and you'll be better off. You could always weigh both options there. Maybe driving trucks is what a guidance counselor is supposed to look at your, I guess, ability, what you're cut out for, what type of career decisions are you looking to do, almost like a self-analyzing. Okay, J. Stan McCauley is very mechanically inclined, so you going to aviation school would be a good fit. J. Stan McCauley might not be a good fit for being a blue collar worker where you gotta have heavy bags of sand. Maybe you gotta have more muscle strength to be a bricklayer. So, and you could come with you could come with your own decision too. I'm not mechanically inclined, so I wouldn't make a good auto mechanic. I know how to drive cars. I know a little basics, but I'm not mechanically.
Well, you may not be mechanically inclined, but you could learn.
You could learn too. But I'm saying the guidance counselor is still supposed to have that.
The guidance counselor can work to that degree, but there's issues along that line, which is for another show for another day.
Right.
The guidance counselor deciding, predetermining what your course should be. And I don't believe that ought to be what they do. They should help you decide where you would best like to focus along with your parents and other people who know you.
Right.
So my way of guidance counseling might be different. I don't know anything about that as a profession, so I'm going to sit here and act like I do. But, I've heard many of a horror stories.
Horror stories, yeah.
Where, the guidance counselor dissuaded somebody from what it was they wanted to do. And they want to go to medical school. Well, you don't have the grades. You'll never be good at doctoring. What you should probably do is be a secretary or a plumber.
Right.
They're not helping you achieve your dreams and your goals. That's a problem. But that's a whole nother issue and a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, truthfully, you just gave me another reminiscent. When I was graduating junior high school, I had the intentions to go play basketball, and I was talking to. I don't think the person was the guidance counselor, but he had some role in the school system, and he told me and kind of discouraged me that you got to forget about playing professional, thinking you're gonna make it in the NBA, making it in the NBA, because the odds are, which is true.
I think that was sound advice.
Sound advice. So that knocked that
right.
dream right out of my head.
Yeah. Now that's a legitimate dream killer.
Right.
Son, you're not going to become an NBA basketball player.
Right.
You're not going to become the next Michael Jackson.
Right.
You're not going to become the next Oprah. These are good things. Now, anyone who's destined to become an NBA star, no one will talk them out of not being that.
Right.
These people are extremely gifted. They didn't get there because they set their mind and practice. No, there's a gift involved here.
Right.
The NBA has the best of the best of the best. It's like becoming a Navy SEAL. There's a lot of good people in the military. There's a lot of good people in the Navy. But of the good people, of the best people, most wash out.
Right.
So the best of the best are going to be successful. That's what you have at the NBA. That's what you have with rock stars. That's what you have with, even our guest this morning talked about Shaka. And you have some of the best singers, the best voices on the planet doing backup for her.
Yes.
She comes in hour and a half late, steps up to the mic. We done the recording session. I came late. I wasn't late. I let my team warm up.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to be here for more than 20 minutes because it doesn't take that long for me to drop my track. Boom. Out. She's a talent. Mm-hmm. People can't do what she does. She makes it look easy, and there's a lot of people who think that they could be like her, and there will be some who can.
Right.
But most will not. Mm-hmm. They lack the drive, the dedication, the discipline, and the willingness to make the sacrifices necessary to become superstars.
Right.
So the ones that have that, nothing will get in their way. So it is not good thinking for a person to think that I don't need to study, I don't need to do anything else because I'm going to become an NBA basketball player.
Right. It's that old saying, always have something to fall back on. If you want to pursue your dreams and aspirations, that's fine, but have a grounded game plan, which I'm just starting to pick up on this game plan theory somebody told me a long time ago, of what is more likely for you to happen than what you might dream and aspire to happen. Mm-hmm. I may dream and aspire that AccessTV.org network can make millions of dollars doing something in the business world. But you see the whole blueprint. You understand what it takes.
Right. Well, that if it was under your control to do so, it might become that. But unfortunately, it isn't.
It's not under my control.
Right.
So I can't green light certain decisions to change things to make that. And that's probably a good thing because it's your network and you want it done.
Yeah, but there are networks out there that are very, very successful, making lots and lots of money. So, I mean, that's like me deciding what you're going to eat tonight.
Right.
I think that you should have a nice piece of salmon with some, lemongrass and such. And, but I don't eat your food.
Right.
You do.
Right.
So maybe you should have some say into how you move forward. And so you get to choose how your life goes. Now, lots of people would like for me to do lots of things, but they don't have to live my life. So.
Your life.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. You have to live your life. The decisions that you make it really will be a reflection on the owner, Stan and Naisha. You turn this network into something, and we talked about this in the past, towards slander, almost borderline pornography, then yes, millions of views will watch, the money will start rolling in. But that reflection now is going to be spotlighted on you.
Right. Well, I'm not interested. I'm not interested necessarily. I'm not. Everyone needs money. I'm not motivated by money. Profit is not a motivating factor for me.
Right.
So making money is not my motivator. Having a voice is my motivator,
right,
and giving other people a voice.
And that's real important too.
So that's what's important to me. That's why I do what I do.
No, but that's important in general too, to have a voice and to have a message and to have an outlet. Because again, if you didn't have this format, I mean, the media, particularly for black media, is very limited. So being able to have free expression, to have the type of discussion that we're having, you just can't go into any mainstream media format and, talk as the way that we're talking. There's restrictions. You owning the network, you kind of set the boundaries on what you are able to discuss. Mm-hmm. And other than maybe community radio or the public access station, I guess through social media today, you having your own YouTube channel has expanded it. So again, having that outlet is real important. That was the whole purpose of doing this format the way you done it, the way you started it 2 years ago. You said we weren't talking about many different issues, that it was like we had a silency at the time with the pandemic. A lot of issues,
particularly from a perspective of people who actually are brown.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about what brown people, this, that, and the third, but none of the people having the discussion were brown. Mm-hmm. So if you want to, so let's hear what brown folk think about stuff.
Right.
As it pertains to George Floyd and the pandemic and all these other things. And so perspective matters. Perspective matters. And it isn't up to others to allow us to have a perspective. It's up to us to make that. I think we spend too much time demanding others give us what we ourselves should be providing.
Right.
So I do what I can, because that's all I can do to provide that.
And again, you're very good at wanting to promote the positiveness, because like you say, you can find whatever you're looking for. And you will go to a rally at certain times of gun violence and other issues that the Mothers United Against Violence, maybe Hartford Community That Cares, is advocating. But you're not going to make that as the sole mission of broadcasting, because Reverend Brown would probably feel like, okay, more people should be supportive towards showing up to his marches and his visuals than what exists. And then that could go to saying, okay, the media could show up. Maybe AccessTV.org network could show up to go along with Channel 3 and Channel 30.
I've done my share of showing up. I have plenty of hours of coverage of
no, but you're not going to make
those kinds of events on my network right now.
Right, I understand that. But you're not going to make see, Channel 3 or Channel 61, he'll contact them or make an attempt to contact them every time there's a rally that they're going to be having. And one of them, most likely, of the networks are going to show up. You're not going to make a priority of every rally that takes place of visuals of Mothers United Against Violence to say you're going to broadcast, the visual where something has taken place at. You do help and participate, but you're not going to make that your sole mission, because you said after a while people will see this is all that is taking.
It becomes the norm.
The norm, and you don't want that perception.
Right.
So that's, your reasons for saying I can't do this. And it takes time too. It takes time and effort to go out to a rally. And everybody may not be up to wanting to be at a rally. I think Reverend Brown understands this. I don't know if he accepts it or not, but I think he do understand that everybody, the ministers and everybody's not going to be on the same page.
He's there.
He's there? Okay.
No, he is at the rally.
Oh, he's at the rally. Okay.
That's who needs to be there. Him.
No, but I've heard statements that he has stated.
I've heard him
that if other ministers were there at the forefront, the movement would go a lot stronger.
The movement would go stronger, but the crime wouldn't go down, because the crime is not directly related to the movement. The crime is related to the individuals who do the crime.
Right.
The movement can react to it.
Well, some people would say what took place in Cheshire, they dealt with that problem. They made some dramatic changes.
What happened in Cheshire was a horrible event. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of it happening ever again in Cheshire is almost zero.
Okay. So it's a much easier.
It should not have happened.
Mm-hmm. With Dr. Pettit, yeah. Oh, was that Doc? Yeah, that was Dr. Pettit, wasn't it, in Cheshire?
What are you talking about? Dr. Pettit, or you talking about the school shooting?
No, the school was in Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Cheshire was, I thought, Dr. Pettit with the home in
I'm mixing up the two.
You're mixing up the two.
Because you went from gun violence to, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Sandy Hook. Dr. Pettit is a different situation. That is a home invasion robbery.
Mm-hmm.
That won't happen to him again, but it will. Those kinds of things, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the point that Reverend Brown and other people were saying is he witnessed the people in Cheshire standing up in high numbers, making, like you mentioned earlier, demanding that some laws and some things are going to change. So something did come out of the Cheshire incident. They drew some political influence with the former governor Jody Rell. I think she toughened up certain laws. You say the law system is not going to be the problem. That if you put more, at least I'm trying to find out, if you have more ministers and more legislators at a rally of Mothers United Against Violence, am I hearing that you don't still think crime would go down?
Crime's not going to go down. Crime's not going to go down if Larson cuts another check.
which he has recently. Yeah, he's participated. Right. Okay.
Or if the mayor goes every time. That's not what impact. Those things don't impact crime. They may show that people care. They may send virtue signals. I'm just being real.
Okay.
Right.
It's a hard pill to swallow. Then
it's a hard pill to swallow. I'm just being real. I'm real. I got up on the real side of the bed this morning.
Right.
And so, and I've waited a long time to be 62.
Okay.
So that I could be real, and anyone that wants to publicly challenge me, I'll teach them why you should never do this in public. So I'm open to all challenges, anytime, any place, anywhere. I'm just keeping it real. This time, next year, all that everyone is doing right now has no effect, period. Now, how many times have I said this?
Yeah, it's been many different times now.
Right. So that fact doesn't change because I don't like it. It is just the facts. And if you want to really solve a problem, you have to be willing to embrace what is wrong from the real. Now, it is a horrible thing that we have this violence. And it's expected that people will be upset. But where violence happens a lot, it becomes normalized. And once it becomes normalized, people stop reacting in a particular way that is outrage and shock. Stuff that happened in Cheshire doesn't happen in Cheshire.
Right, that's true.
So when it happens, the one time, everyone is outraged. They broke into this man's house, hit him over the head, did horrible things to his wife and daughters, and he has to live with that. And there was much sympathy poured out to him. He got elected to office.
He did.
All right.
And he stayed committed and involved. I think he started some type of foundation.
So right. And so there is a tighter knit community. The dynamic out there is totally different than it is in the inner city. And so you can't expect the same outcome in one community that you see in another community unless the community dynamics are the same, and they are not.
Right.
That's just the hard truth. And so if that's what you want, then you need to change the community dynamic.
Yeah. Which is
not just protest.
Not saying that you are against.
I'm not against
protesting.
I'm not against people showing up and being sympathetic. I'm not against any of those things. But if we're talking about an outcome, then you have to be real about it. Outcomes are determined by actions. If you don't take particular actions, you're never going to get a desired outcome. Your desire for the outcome doesn't make it happen. The actions that go into it make it happen.
And I don't know if you're aware, because I had left Reverend Brown a message. U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal is holding a conference today on gun violence.
I'm sure he is.
And
it's not his first, won't be his last.
Yeah. I think Reverend Brown should be part of the conference, but I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he was invited, and you don't think it will make a difference even if you.
I don't even.
Yeah.
I don't even dare to weigh in.
But I think when you can interact, whether it resolves the problem or not, it makes you feel like you have a voice, like what we're talking about. That what you are advocating. If let's say Mothers United Against Violence is at the conference today with U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal. You don't think it will make them feel like they have a voice that they can give some input because they're physically there. They're going to be able to be part of the discussion. If they are left out of the discussion, you feel some degree that I don't really have much of a voice. You may have a voice in other areas, but now you can have your legislation or your views advocated to your U.S. Senator to go back to Congress. So I think being at the table still carries some important. I rather be at the table.
Those are two different things that we're talking about here. So having a seat at the table to give your comment to an elected official for a particular outcome is different than rallying after a crime.
Right.
They're two separate things. Now, whether or not there will be and whether or not the petition of this elected official will be beneficial when they go back to Congress is another discussion. So what is it? What is the legislation? Is this a town meeting to gather information, and from the information you're going to build some sort of presentation that's going to make an ask? What is all of that? What is the expected outcome?
Well, I don't know what the whole mechanisms of the conference is designed to do, other than what I heard. But I think what the problem from Mothers United Against Violence and other grassroots organization was saying to Senator Chris Murphy after Sandy Hook was, we sympathize of what took place, and we understand that was a horrific incident and it shouldn't happen. But we're seeing daily issues of gun violence and other forms of violence every single day, and we feel like we don't even have a voice. We don't have no influence. It's just like we have to accept this, other than working with maybe your local Hartford Police Department or other police.
Well, we
departments.
don't have to accept it. We've grown to accept it.
We've grown to accept it.
Right,
yeah.
right. The way you show Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal that you don't accept it is you don't vote for them again.
Yeah. Because vote that's where you make
right. When they come to your little community centers, you tell them, "Excuse me, you weren't invited here. No, you were not going to speak. Thank you. Get back in your car and go." That's what you do.
Okay. And then right.
They cut you a check. You tell them to take the money back and get us something that's going to change the economic dynamic in our community. That's what you do.
That's what you do. Okay.
Right.
And then see what comes out of it. Well, again, I mean, maybe that's where the frustration sometimes comes into place. Because when you're going up to Congress, I mean, they're having frictions right now. It sounds like they're coming to some level of compromises on passing some gun. And again, you don't even think this is the solution.
It's not the solution.
But maybe it's helping them feel like if they get the law passed.
If it helps their heads and puts them in a better space,
yeah,
so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. And nothing wrong with folk having good head space.
But we don't.
But if we're talking about solution,
yeah,
we're talking about solution, then that's a different conversation. I'm not talking about virtue signaling. I'm not talking about headspace. I'm not talking about funding programs. I'm talking about solutions to the problem.
So when Congressman John Larson works an effort to get a grant money allocated to Mothers United Against Violence and Hartford Community that cares,
that's great for Mothers United Against Violence. They should be funded to the degree that they don't have to ask for money anymore.
But is that part of the solution process? Sometimes you can't get the whole solution, all that you want, but you take a piece by piece.
There's no. Your feet are in cement. The solution is to get them out. Now, if we get one foot out,
okay,
the other foot is solid.
Right.
The water's coming. It's going to come up above your head by 3 inches.
Okay.
You're going to drown. So there's only one acceptable solution. Get you out the cement.
Out the cement.
We may have to cut your foot off. Otherwise, you'll drown.
Right.
So half a solution is no solution.
So the grant money.
Right? As long as you can send. See, I've been saying this stuff for decades now. That's why I can say it without fear of contradiction or pushback. Because I have past commentary documented where I say these things. I ran for office saying these things. Now, if you can send $40 billion in aid to Ukraine, then you can come up with a solution here in the United States and in North Hartford.
Right.
Period. I say that without fear of contradiction. So half a solution isn't good enough.
Right. But
trying isn't good enough.
It's not good enough. Okay.
Try is to fail. If success is the metric, then I don't care how hard you try. I said this before. It's not personal. I don't care how hard you try. we're looking for success here, not your effort. Success. If you tried and failed, then we need to find someone else who can try and be successful.
Yeah, but Stan, put the ball in your court. You tried and utilized your effort to become mayor. You were not elected mayor. So, I mean, it may not be the same thing, but you had to put the effort and time into running for mayor.
Right.
You just can't become mayor because you want to become mayor.
We're not talking about somebody wanting to become mayor. That's an apples and oranges issue. That's an apple and oranges issue. The apple to apples issue is, now that you are mayor, why aren't you succeeding?
All right.
That would be the apple to apple issue.
Okay, because
right.
You have U.S.
people
Congress.
try lots of things and fail. So if we use that, then if becoming mayor is what's necessary for Stan to come up with a solution, then Stan has failed. It doesn't change because it's me.
Right.
I'm not trying to come up with a solution. That's not what I do.
Right.
They're the ones trying to come up with a solution. So if you want a solution from these people who have been tasked with finding a solution, then they need to deliver, or we need to find someone else. That's all I'm saying. That doesn't change.
All right.
That doesn't change.
Well, the thing you stated was they have been elected, so it's not like
they're in office.
Yeah, they're in office, so they're not running.
They came here with money
Right.
from the National Treasury.
Right.
Right? I don't have that kind of reach.
Right.
I can't cut checks like that. If I could cut checks like that, Mothers United Against Violence would never have to ask for money ever again. Hartford Communities That Care would never have to ask for money again. They would not have to worry about next year's funding cycle.
Right.
Andrew, you are an expert at what you do. Here's a budget. Now, bless your heart, brother. Deliver. That's what I would do. So, but I'm not in that position.
Yeah, but if they have the resources that they need to fight the war, because that's how you have to look at it.
Andrew, we could invite them here. Andrew and Brown. I say this without fear of contradiction. You ask Andrew and Brown to come up with a solution to fix North Hartford, they'll come up with it before they leave this room. Now, will someone fund it? No.
Okay.
And therein lies the problem. The problem isn't that we don't have the capacity to come up with solutions. The problem is there are those in positions of power who don't want the solutions to be implemented. This is not rocket science.
Right. So everything that's happening in our inner cities here in Hartford and other places, what is by design to happen? Because I guess if you allow,
it's by design.
It's by design. So that's even worse. You know, if it's by design not to fix it, but it's by design to have it and also not to fix it, which is almost the same thing. You know, if you neglect certain things, then the outcome most likely, if you don't put gas in your car is not going to run.
It's going to run out of gas.
So, and you have to have fuel in your car. You have to pay for your gas. So I see what you're saying. Well, again, the numbers are alarming. 20 homicides in a small city, on pace for about 40, maybe even more.
All right, we've returned to becoming the homicide capital of New England. To quote the mayor.
Yeah, actually, I think our homicide rate is higher than Boston's.
When he ran for office the first time, those were his words. I'm not being personal. I'm just laying it out.
Well, the numbers haven't gone down under his watch. I mean, that's the reality. Whether he's at fault for it or not, but
he's not at fault.
But the numbers have not. He hasn't.
It's not his fault. But you can't have your butter. You can't have your toast buttered on both sides and affect your hands to get greasy. So, you know, if that's what you ran on, changing, then where's the change?
Well, I can't speak for Mayor Bronin, but he will probably say we've done a lot of other things. We've bailed the city out of bankruptcy. We've fixed our grand list. This is probably public safety, maybe the one area
let's use your example. I've done lots of other things. Yes, but you still ain't won office. We ain't talking about you not winning office.
Right.
Yeah, but look at the other things I've done. I've done this. I've done that. I've done. No. That's not the issue, is it?
Right. You haven't been elected mayor.
Right. So you have failed.
Right.
He has failed.
Okay.
To deliver a safe city. Period. We're not talking about other stuff. We're talking about safe city. That's what he ran on.
Right.
Right?
But he's going to utilize that why you should re-elect him. I'm not saying, he can promote that as his agenda.
His agenda should be, if he wants to get elected, there's plenty there for him to get re-elected on. I'll say that. There's plenty there. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about gun safety, crime, homicide rate.
Well, he has to be aware of the numbers. I mean, I don't think you can be in denial.
He's not in denial. He knows exactly what the
numbers are. Right.
He's the mayor. He knows what the number is. He knew the number before you did.
Yeah, he did.
Because he got the phone call before anyone else did.
Yeah. Now, how he goes about handling it, that's the issue.
He can only handle it in what... This is the catch-22, and why, if you run for office, you don't make these kind of statements if you don't have a plan that can actually deliver. You don't have control over the criminals. Homicides are mostly crimes of passion. You don't have control over those things. And unless you're going to do something that changes the environment, which incubates these kinds of attitudes, actions, and stress reliefs, then you're not going to be able to do much to control the crime. So if you're not going to directly invest in the human beings and in the human capital, investing in the human capital to make a better and living environment for the citizens that live here, if that is not your primary objective, then there's nothing there's no reason to expect a different outcome. Now, there's a reason to expect a different outcome as it relates to economic forward move of the city, Hartford Incorporated, irrespective of the people who live here. And so if that's the focus, then that's what you see happening. Hartford is growing and moving forward in that aspect, and in that capacity. And those are the things that people want right now. So that's what's happening. What happens to the people is insignificant.
But I'm saying he did a very good job 4 years ago with the advertisement and promoting the city over the past 4 years under his watch, and he's been able to.
That's $1 million can do that.
$1 million can do that.
I sell you pet rocks for $1 million.
Right.
They're worthless.
Yeah.
Money, you can do lots of things.
A lot of things, right.
Right.
Because it came across like he was doing an excellent job and the city was moving in the right direction. So why not vote for me? Right.
And people need to understand, the city the city is moving in a right direction. The issue isn't that the mayor is wrong. The issue is that me as a human being don't agree with the vision that he has laid out. It's not that his vision is wrong. I'm not in agreement with it. Having said that, there are plenty of people who are.
Right.
There are a lot more people who are in agreement with where he's taking the city than where I wanted to take it. And that's why he is the mayor and I am not.
Right.
Among other things, but that I think would be a fair statement. And so the conversation I have with people all the time is, it's not enough to not like the mayor's vision or to be in opposition to it. And your being in opposition to it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. Just because you don't like the way the mayor is going, and this is of any elected official, doesn't mean that somehow they're doing something wrong. It means that we're not in agreement. And our not being in agreement doesn't speak for everybody in the city. So as long as there are people who like where he's taking the city, he will remain in power. And there are a lot of those people.
Right. Well, again, if public safety is not enough, I mean, I would say there's other factors too, other issues beyond public safety, but that seems to be one of the biggest issues that's staring many people right in front of their face. And, if people feel like, the mayor Luke Bronin is the person that could fix the problem, give me another 4 years. I mean, that'd be the way they'll look at it if they're going to vote for him. If they feel like he can't resolve public safety and we need to try someone else, then they will not vote for him. If you're going by
that is, if public safety is the key, main, only issue, the number one issue. Mm-hmm. And I dare to say that it is not.
It's not, right.
All right, so public safety is part of the mix, but it's not the only thing.
Right.
And this issue around public safety comes up every year. Mm-hmm. That's why we can say with certainty that this will be a problem next year. Mm-hmm. And all that people are doing is not likely to change the outcome because they're not dealing with the cause.
Yeah. The effect factor is not the cause factor. I mean, dealing with the effects and not dealing with the cause,
delivers no change.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, again, I mean, I don't know where things are going at. Truthfully, I don't have a guest lined up for next week, so I can do a little brainstorming. Maybe I might want to tap into an issue like this. Maybe I don't. I don't know for sure. Because, I mean, it's one thing for me to give my opinion. It's another thing to have someone give the facts. And, you laid down the facts, too, this morning. It's not an easy task. And you said effort and trying alone is not enough.
Not when something is, not when there's a deliverable.
Yeah, when it's deliverable and you can't deliver, that's a whole different story. Like,
No. When there is when we demand a deliverable, trying is not enough. It's laudable. It's fabulous. Unfortunately, it's not enough.
Right.
There are fires burning in the Middle East. The sky is black. Oil is burning. Trying to put the fires out is a good place to start. Mm-hmm. But until they're all out, we have not succeeded. Because nothing short of all fires being extinguished is enough. So try harder.
Mm-hmm. But like you said before, if, Mothers United Against Violence and Hartford Community that cares was given the resources fully to their capacity, they could turn this ship around. They could turn the whole ship that's sinking in a different direction. Giving them part of the grant money that Congressman Larson was instrumental in delivering, from your understanding, is not enough, or it's just not going to be the solution. They would definitely feel helpful that he has helped them get something.
He's helped their organizations. That's to me another subject. Their organizations have been helped, and as they should be. I have no problem with that.
Right.
Well, we're talking about stopping the violence. If we're talking about stopping gun violence, then we need to do something different because this happens every year.
Yeah.
So whatever's it's not working.
Right. And I gotta be upfront, Stan. I think perception is reality in some cases, whether it's justifiable or not. I looked at that area where they found the dead body on Martin Street this past week, and I didn't like what I looked at. Again, that's one thing to say what you don't like, and it's another thing to say what you can do to help it. So by me passing by saying I'm seeing some issues here that I don't think is livable, that's one thing. But how could I be helpful to make the area livable is another thing.
If I can't speak to that, this
take a drive by one day when you got some time.
If an area this is separate from the issue we're just talking about. If an area is seemingly unlivable to you, the best place for me to start would be to ask the people that live there what they think is necessary to make the area livable.
Right.
Not what I think, but what do they think? Because they live there.
Well, and when I say livable, I'm not saying you can't survive and you can't live there, but there has to be something wrong when a body is found dead for 1 or 2 days. That's not the only problem in that area, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
But I mean, remember when Brad Davis fell down the steps of his house?
I heard he got injured. I don't remember exactly.
This was some time ago. He's since gone on and passed. Yes. But I mean, and he talked about this on the radio. He knew that his lawnmower guy was going to come and want to get paid. Mm-hmm. So he waited until the guy came, and then he saw him.
Okay.
Other than that, he would have been laying on the floor. There's a lot of people who fall, seniors, who fall in their house, and they can't get up. There's no one to help them, and they find themselves being dead. So someone being dead in a house doesn't speak to the whole community.
Yeah. I think this was outside, though.
Or even outside. Yeah. You don't know. I mean, people walk past. You don't know.
Well, if
he's laying on the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think this was a homicide, though. I think that's the reality. It wasn't like untimely.
Well, I understand it, Jonathan, but because someone doesn't see that there's a homicide happen, doesn't mean inherently that the neighborhood is somehow indicted. It's not an indictment on the neighborhood. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. I don't live directly on the street. So, again, it's better that you talk to the people that live there because they can tell you firsthand what's going on day to day, night to night. It's one thing for me to drive by and see some things that I don't think.
A lot of assumptions being made that way.
Yeah, that might be a better way, just to have somebody on the street tell you who sees it and are dealing with it more than what I'm saying.
Right.
But I will say this. I don't think Realtor Magazine is going to promote that part of Hartford as a destination. I can stand confident in that part.
Well, that's true. But I mean, someone's going to move there. Someone, if someone moves out, someone will move in. Right. They don't need to be in Realtor Magazine.
Right.
So it may not be where you live, but someone lives there, and when they go home, come back from vacation, they're glad to get home.
Right. And again, Stan, I'm not trying to indict the people because I can relate to people feeling that you can't get sometime what you're looking for whatever reason. So this is not to indict or speak downly on the people. I just think when you're seeing some form of abandonment, neglect, and not really a solid foundation, it just tells you. I mean, I can see.
So what part of Martin Street is this?
It's probably the part of Martin Street from, let's say, Captain and Martin, going up to Nelson and Martin Street. That's more on the eyesore.
Nelson is where the almost around the corner from the church.
It is.
The little corner store is there where the woman got shot.
Yes.
So from so in that one block of Capon, one block over is the CRT, not CRT, Crex, early schooling. What do you call it? Head Start program. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just over there yesterday for a cookout.
Well, there's been some effort on Martin Street.
Not on Martin Street, but
not on Martin. But
Enfield.
Enfield, yeah.
One block over from that area.
Right.
For a cookout.
No, I mean, like I told you, Stan, I mean, Hartford is a small city. You can divide it up however you want to do it. But it's that, don't go by just me. I mean, the people will tell you certain areas you got to be on your P's and Q's.
Right, Russell Church is over there.
Russell Church, yeah. Russell Church or Russell?
Russell's.
Russell Church, okay.
Is over that way.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, there's some effort to revitalize it. You go all the way up Martin Street getting towards Unity Plaza, the habitat or whoever built those homes are very nice when you get to that part.
Right. So the neighborhood is seemingly
It's mixed.
right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, good people live all over the city.
Good people live all over the city, but you said before, Stan, your criminals got to live someplace too.
Criminals do have to live someplace, and some of them live downtown. Don't think criminals don't live downtown.
Right. Well, white collar criminal. Well, yeah, you're right. You could be a
criminal
criminal,
is a
can have the
criminal
money
is
to
a
live.
criminal.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not
you're
going
right.
to,
classify it.
Classify them. Criminals live all over the place.
Right. But
the dealer might live on Martin Street, but the distributor is living downtown.
Downtown, right. That's true. It's a big problem all over the spectrum when you get into that drug market. You're right.
Right.
About that.
Some of them got law degrees because they're representing their client.
Right.
So the criminal class is everywhere.
Yeah, but the destruction, how one area is being destructed, it's not really destructing downtown the way it's destructing some of your other areas of the city. That's one of the bigger differences. You say things are not going to be allowed, and things still happen downtown too. Downtown is not a guaranteed safe haven, but it's more likely things are going to be dealt with downtown differently than other parts of the city. But that's really a shame for such a small city to have that type of division, if that's really the full case or not. But the work still goes on for whoever's out there dealing with it. And like I say, you're right, Stan. The good outweighs the bad. If 80 to 90% of what's happening in the city is solid, uplifting, and 10 to 20% is negative and illegal, that's still a good amount of numbers that you gotta cause damage.
But you take care of that, and you don't live. You don't let your whole life be framed by the negativity.
Right. Only if you are trying to fix a problem. If you see
identify the problem in an effort to understand source, cause, and then eventually a fix. Mm-hmm. If you can't fix the problem, move on to something else you can handle.
Right.
Right. You need to know when the problem is beyond your capacity to change or fix. Then you come up with mitigating means by which to deal with the problem. You could isolate the problem. You could quarantine the problem. You do what you need to do to make it work overall for the society. Mm-hmm. But everything can't. You don't have the capacity to fix everything.
Right.
But the objective should be, how do we fix this? Mm-hmm. That ought to be the objective. How do we fix this? And you get good heads together and you come up with a fix and you implement the fix. If it works, you keep it going. If it doesn't work, you make adjustments along the way until it's fine-tuned and work.
Well, I don't say this is the best solution, but I was told in the past that the Hartford Police Department knows most of the criminals, and if they decided to shut down the city, they could really put a dent in what's going on.
Well, they could probably arrest them.
Arrest people.
They don't put people in jail. The judicial system does. They may arrest you because you did a crime, but if you're gonna just get let back out,
combination of factors. You got to arrest. You got to do more than that. But I'm just saying, if you're going to deal with it on a law enforcement side, if the police department arrests the people, gets the hardened criminals off of the street, the judicial system handles them.
I would suggest that the hardened criminals are off the street. They're not like running around. We have some things that are going on that are not necessarily the result of hardened criminals, but people who have conflicts that can't be resolved, and they turn to violence and to resolve their conflicts. And then the conflict resolution is devastating to many individuals and families.
Right.
And makes for very glitzy, sexy news. But you're not going to hear people have these kinds of conversations that are in positions of power, because those things aren't acceptable for in terms of consumption. And so we don't have honest conversations about issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what
we have politically correct conversations about issues. We have politically correct solutions.
Right.
And therefore we have the same problem happening over and over again because the things that they are doing don't work.
And more again, what U.S. Senator Blumenthal's conference today is probably going to be a politically correct conversation.
He's running for re-election.
He's running for re-election, so
he does this every re-election cycle. So does John Larson and Senator Murphy.
Right. Yeah, those are three key, powerful figures that we have representing us.
I mean, that's the name of the nature of the work they do. They have to get elected in order to stay in office, and in order to get elected, they have to do the things that they're doing now.
Right. So it stands to reason that this would be the right time to work with U.S. Senator Blumenthal if you're looking for some legislation or something you're looking for, because he's running for office. He's more likely to listen to you and see what he'll tell you what you want to hear, most likely. But when a candidate is running for re-election, this is the right time, I think, to try to get in contact with them. You should be in contact with them for their whole 4 to 6 years anyway. But if their schedule is too busy and they can't be available, and you got the chance now, you better take advantage of it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because when they get elected or re-elected, if you had a hard time getting in contact with them now, it's going to even be harder then. And that should not be the way it is. But their aides are very helpful, though. The aides who work for them, you can definitely work through them, too. So keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, interesting 3 hours, I guess 2 or 3 hours today. And look forward to seeing what comes about for next week.
All right. Well, I'm sure it'll be interesting. It always is with Jonathan Small. So you will tune in here every Monday, Tuesday to hear what it is that Jonathan brings to the table with our guests. Wednesday, Dr. Bowen and Luis Delgado will be here. Friday, of course, it'll be myself and Cleo Duke Wright. Sometimes we have specials on Thursdays. If not, we'll repeat something from the past. Same for Tuesdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays we will bring a repeat. Most of the times it's a repeat of the day before, but we'll see. So tune in every day, 8 o'clock in the morning. There's something new every day at 8. Check it out. All right, every night, every weeknight anyway, 10 o'clock. Join me for Bible study. All right, Mr. Small.
Yes, Dan.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we got heavy in the last segment of our show this morning. Appreciate giving me this outlet.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
And everything. So, I look forward to seeing you next week, if it's God's will.
All right. All right, my friends, we will see you next time. You all have a blessed rest of your day. Ciao.
is Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.